Okay. So today we're recording class, and hopefully it'll work out this time. Actually, maybe I should just. I have plenty of space. Cool. So you asked for a recap on the last class? Yeah, so what did we actually do last class? So we were discussing back and forth on choice of database, right? And eventually we concluded that the best way forward was that that us mentors, we tried to decide on one data model for you. So Magdi and I, we sat down and we made this diagram for you. Maybe I should just show you that.
Yeah, I'll see someone put it in the screen.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So that was the data model that we ended up deciding on, and I actually asked Magdi to give some comments on that because he had some good thoughts about it, but I don't think he ever managed to post it on the Slack channel. But as you see here, we have like
Zoom it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the record and then we have the song as like the two main entities. So like a record holds a number of songs. So there's a one-to-many relationship between those. Then to associate artists, we have, an artist can both be a band, but an artist is part of a band. So the idea here is that a band can have multiple artists, but an artist can also be in multiple bands. And that means that we need to make the association with the drawing table here. So we know whether it's the artist or it's the band that's playing on the record. And then we had like a little bit of discussion back and forth in terms of now we've been putting all of the metadata directly on either the song or the record, rather than taking them out into separate tables. And Magdi had a very strong point in terms of doing it this way. So this is basically denormalization, where the idea is that we're going to have all the search functionality. We're going to have that in Elasticsearch. So Elasticsearch will take care of finding the right songs for us. But what we need from there on is that we need to fairly easy be able to render all of the metadata. And the point from Magdi was that if you have to do a lot of joins every single time, you just have to show a details page that could be a performance issue, and of course also it's difficult for you if you're not so super experienced with databases. So it's way easier if the metadata is on the songs themselves. Of course, that means that a lot of that metadata will of course be repeated. So we'll have a lot of quite a bit of redundant data. So it's really a trade-off. But this is kind of the model that we landed on.
What is a song called?
Song?
One song. There's a
song called.
Without the language.
Yeah.
That's
a good question. I'm thinking that maybe it was auto-created for something and we forgot to delete it.
Okay.
I don't think it's supposed to be there. Yeah, very good question. I think I'll just delete it. Let's just go over them and make sure that we understand what's in there.
And what's the idea behind the language?
Language, so that's the language of that's been spoken on the song on the song.
Mm.
So I mean, I probably wouldn't be listening to a lot of, let's say, Lithuanian music because I have no idea about the lyrics.
Mm.
And I mean, if I'm really shocked how many languages there are on the African continent. I don't know. There probably some resemblance between a lot of them, but I mean, it's probably really valuable to be able to filter out the languages that you don't understand and you're not interested in. So I think this is a really big thing that you don't see in something like iTunes or Spotify or something like that, because all popular music almost is in English, right? Um, so that's actually something we've been emphasizing quite a lot, that it's important to have the language in there. I think that creates a lot of value for the platform. So there's a title, and that's the title of the song, of course. Then there's a physical medium, so that could be like a vinyl record, it could be a cassette tape, possibly a CD, but I don't think I've seen any CDs in the database, so it's all like old stuff before CD mediums. Then the language that we just spoke about. Some keys, bands, artists, more keys. So that one is repeated as no band has artists.
You found
Okay.
data about the language? You found data about the language?
Yeah, we do have some data about the languages. I can't say if it's 100% reliable, but it's like all the other data that we have. And then there's the year that the record was produced. I think it's actually the year that it was released. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter. And then the genre. And up here we have the location. And I think the location that we managed to find in the data is actually the location of the record company. So in some cases, I think we could see like artists from Ghana who managed to get a record deal in London, and then it might say London. But I mean, it's the best we have to go by, and it's still kind of like if you go out and you look for certain labels, you'll quite often find that labels focus on a particular style of music or something like that, right? So it might actually be that they call it the London Afro scene or something like that, and that would be pretty cool if you see that on a map. Then you see it actually in London. I don't know. I mean, I suppose also the artists were flown into studios in London and they did it like that. Or,
Yeah,
I don't know.
It makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's it's the data that we have. So that's definitely what we're going to go with. In some cases, we have alternative title. It's actually not a lot of them, and we discussed whether we should just throw it out. But then we might get lucky that it's kind of like you have a title in the original language, and then maybe you have the title in English, and that would be pretty nice. And this title up here is, of course, the title of the record. Based on my further research after we did this data model, I've been like doing a lot of work trying to figure out a meaningful way of interpreting the data that we have. And based on that, I'm actually not sure that a lot of the records actually have titles. It sounds a little bit strange maybe, but the thing is that I can just show you when I look through the raw data some of the things that we found. I think it's actually really valuable that I just take you through some of the issues that I found in the raw data, so you have an idea what is reliable and what is not. So you can see this spreadsheet is absolutely huge. So the row down here is the things that me and Magdi have like interpreted that this is probably what's in this column, because a lot of the columns we don't actually have the label for the column. So you can see this one, language, and then in Sprache, that means language in German. So what we do here is we just go in and we take all the values in this row and then we remove Sprache colon, and then we're left with Swahili and stuff like that. But then the next thing is that many times these languages are actually in German. So I've been sitting around and trying to maintain a list of what is all the African languages in the world in German and what are they in English. And then I try to translate it. So that's kind of messy in itself. But it doesn't get better by the fact that then suddenly there's like Sprache, high life in Twi, and high life is a genre, right? It's not a language.
And Swahili is fine.
Huh?
Swahili is fine.
Swahili is fine, yeah. But also because Swahili could be like Swahili, but it could also be Kiswahili.
No, it's Swahili.
But that's what I read on Wikipedia. Maybe I'm wrong, but some people apparently say Kiswahili.
In English, it is Swahili.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Swahili.
Yeah. But I just tried as good as I could to try to look up these languages and what they're actually called in English. And there might be errors in it. And you can see again here you have some languages, but it's mixed up with genres and stuff like that. So that's
that one is my language.
which one?
Luganda.
Okay.
Luganda, yeah.
This one? Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
But Uganda is not a language.
So what is that? Is that a genre or is it something
that
else?
That would be like tribe.
Oh.
Tribe language.
Oh. Yeah. So you see, it's getting really complicated quickly. But here we have another one. We're using this one. And it's not too bad. We can parse out all the weird stuff that's going on in there. I have no idea why they are entering the data like that. Then we get to something that it took me a long time to figure out. So this one is supposed to be side A. What I learned was that this is actually side B on the records. And the only way I could find that out was that I was Googling all of the records and I was starting to find some records. I found some on YouTube. I found some on Discogs G. Discogs G, that's the API that I'm using. And I found records different places and I was just comparing the data and looking like, so how does all this fit together? And it seems that it's pretty consistent that this stuff is side B. But then, of course, we have to clean it up a little bit. There's some characters here. There's some German. That means enthalten außerdem. So it also contains. That's a translation in English. So this record also contains. So somewhere else we have the actual side A, and this is the side B, and then they mark it up by saying also contains. So that's side B. And you see that the tracks, they're separated with full stops. But I also found that there's like a track where the full stop was part of the title of the song, and then suddenly we turns one song into two songs, or I think it was actually ... so it turned into multiple songs and stuff like that. But it seems that this one is pretty consistently side B on the records. And then we have side B, and what is that? And in most cases, it's the same as side A, so these two are just turned around. But if we go way over to the... Where do we have that one? This one. So the record title here, or at least I thought there was supposed to be record title / performer. So you see this would be the title, and then this would be the performer. But what I found was that in most cases, this is actually the song on side A, and this is the performer. So what I learned when I was like looking through Discogs G and all that kind of stuff is that most of these old African records, they don't actually have a record title. They just have the titles of the songs on the record. And then if you go on Discogs G, it would just say the title of the song. Usually there are only one song on each side. Some of them we see that there are multiple songs, and that's maybe when they started doing cassette tapes or it was short songs or something like that. But in most cases, these records are quite short, and there's one song on each side. So quite often, the way the record title would be on Discogs G is just that it would be this title of the song on side A / title of the song on side B. So my point here is that I'm actually not sure that I can find a reliable record title in all of this data. But right now, I think the model I'm going for is that I use this one as side A, I use this one as the performer, and I use the one that's marked as side A, I use that as side B.
Right.
So So I'm just talking them through all the weird stuff that we found in the data. So then I think this is the column that we ended up using for country. But as you can see, it's mixed up with shellac, which is a medium that's like the really old vinyl records. So it's also not super reliable, but we're filtering that out. Yeah. So I wrote you on Slack during the week that I was looking into using the Discourse G API. And the reason for that is because all of this is so super messy. So I'm kind of like, I don't trust this so much. And the other thing that I found was this, if you go, there's one thing that I forgot to mention. Commentary. Wait, where is it? So this one, record number, I discovered that this one is equivalent to what they on Discourse G calls catalog number, and I think that's a recording industry standard. And I found something else which is I get lost in this file all the freaking time. So the point is, I found a field that seems to be very reliable in being the barcode on the record. So you know when you scan the record, there's a barcode, right? And that one also seems to be standardized. So you can fairly reliably find these things on the internet if you look up those numbers. Given, of course, that anyone else has ever written about this music, because a lot of this music is super unique. So it is like hardly any other places than this library, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know how much of it, because I'm actually surprised how much I was able to find on Discourse G. So right now I'm working on a script where what I'm doing is that I take the barcode numbers and then I call the Discourse G API, and then they return back if they have that record. My problem right now is that they return back too many records. So what I do is I kind of like check again that the barcode actually matches, because it kind of does like a fuzzy match. So if the barcode says WA167, it will also match GWA167B or something like that, which might be an entirely different record. And then the other thing that I have at the moment is that the Discourse G API only allows 60 requests per minute. And I'm staying under that, but it seems that if I push out my requests at the same time, it also kind of does some stuff. So I still haven't entirely managed to get all the data out. But my idea is that if we can get like a reasonable amount of data from Discourse G. So we have like, I think we have like 1,800 records or something like that in total. And if we can maybe get 500 out of Discourse G, then I'm like, okay, let's go with the data structure that Discourse G is using, which is a bit different from what we have, but I mean, it's closer to what we want to do than the stuff that we have here. So I'm just try and show you what we get back from the Discourse G API. So you can see here we can search by barcode. I saved the search, and maybe I should show headers. Oh, just scroll. So if I search, yeah, I have the barcode search here. You can see I'm searching for barcode, and I'm searching for the code that's called WA131. And the stuff I get back looks like this. So the most interesting part is whether there are more than one result. And there is. So that means that it's probably not all of them that are relevant to us. And if we look at the barcode, we'll see it was WA131. You can see this barcode, it contains WA131, but it doesn't actually match it. So that's kind of the problem that we have with the search being too fuzzy. So we get more choices here. You probably want to know what's the actual record. So we have on there. Probably the other way. So it's a record by OBBTK band. So he's not even listed here. So this was just a false match. There wasn't actually that record. It was just that the code in there was included in some of the others. And I found like quite a few of the records, if they have a certain format, it's quite often that it is actually stuff like Afrobeat and stuff like that. So I think maybe like African music has certain letters in their barcodes. I don't really have another example right now where it matches, but I did found quite a few where it did match. But what I wanted to take from this is just that you can see kind of like the data that they are storing. So they have the style of the music. One really cool thing is that we would actually be able to get the thumbnail images or like album covers, also like not just thumbnail size, regular size. So we'll be able to get the album artwork. There's a format here. I guess this is the country where it was released. There's another genre. I'm not sure. Rhythm and blues. So there's a style and a genre. Yeah. So I mean, this would definitely give us a more reliable source, and then we could maybe like add in some of the data that we have ourselves. For instance, this language section, which I don't know if they actually on Discuss G, if they're able to distinguish better between the African languages. Yeah.
So we'll get some examples to tune the data structure. That structure is close.
I mean, the point is that we're going right now. What we do is we're going for the data model that Magdi and I came up with. But my point is that I think this is so valuable for us that we will adapt that model to this if we can pull it off. If we manage to find enough records that works, we will adapt it again. But I mean, it's like real life. We also change our applications and along the way when we find out new stuff. So it's not like it's just frustrating because we're quite far into the project right now and we still haven't made a final decision on the data model. And I think that's something that's holding us back. But on the other hand, I see so much work in trying to clean up the data that we have that we need something like this to have at least something where we can say this is some data that we can use quite reliably.
Maybe I can say a little bit about the talk that I had with them. Well, the model that you guys built is not far from what they said, but again, what what they said might change because they were supposed to reflect a little bit about it and give us some examples. But I don't think it will go so far. But everything that we thought is included there, so that model fits exactly what we thought. They also confirmed that they want an independent platform, so it will not be connected to the database of the university. It's something independent, and it will have the snippets and the thumbnails. They're supposed.
Do they have album or
Yeah.
publish?
Yeah.
Oh.
They have like in a huge format. They said that they would provide it in a smaller.
Oh, nice.
So that and the snippets, and we're waiting for that.
Yeah.
I've pushed them a little bit. They're aware.
So the music we're playing today, where did you get that from?
Well, I can actually post that to the group. They have, they work with DJs playing from the group.
Oh, so it's just like their mix set?
It's just sets, so they have a couple of sets on Mixcloud, so you put that on.
Alright, cool. Yeah, because that's another challenge that's kind of pending here. That's the fact that they're going to give us a lot of files, but we don't even know what are the file names going to look like. How are they going to match up with this? So far, we have very little stuff that actually match up with each other.
What I asked for them to start with was 5 examples of extreme scenarios, albums that have more than one artist and things that they can, so we can adapt a little bit and make them think a little bit about the data that they want stored. They are also aware that the data itself on the database is not consistent and it's a little bit messed up. So it's not just the format that they're provided in the past, it's also the data in the database that is a little bit skewed.
Yeah, and that's my point, because what I could see here was when I did this side A and side B and I tried to reverse them, then suddenly I actually had like stuff where I think they did put it in the right way, like the way that the label said.
They actually said something about that site kind of thing, but they didn't approach it like that. They didn't approach it like separately. They said that there was a big string, and from looking at it, they could say, okay, this has 6 records, so 3 are on the A and 3 are on the B. They said something like that. For me, it's not, the way that I see it, it's not a big problem, because if you're searching for a song, it doesn't really matter which site it is.
No, absolutely not. Also,
it's a good detail.
If you look at the data that I sent out, I did, so you can do both. So you can see my idea here was that I provide one which is all tracks, and I provide the side A and I provide the side B. So it depends on you. If you're going to build a UI where you can query, where you can show stuff that's on side A and stuff that's on side B, you can do that. But you can also just make a list of all the songs that are on the record. Because what I found was that because of the inconsistencies, sometimes I would get this one, Akie D or whatever it's called, and I would get that on side B as well, because someone typed it on side A and then he typed it right in the other place or something like that. So they were not consistent, right? So I might get like the sides repeating. So what I did here in this one is that I just list all of the sides and then I remove any duplicates. So this one right now is the most reliable way to determine what songs on the record, but it's still not reliable. So, yeah.
So is the plan to go forward with this?
Yeah, I mean the plan is to go forward with the best that we have at the current moment, which is a file that I sent you on Slack. And I just want to tell you that I'm hoping to be able to augment that file. So what I would be doing is I would take all of the Discourse G metadata and put that into that file. So in general, you should be able to trust that you will have the stuff that you have there. And then maybe you will have some more stuff from Discourse G. So maybe that means that you should start taking the tracks from Discourse G rather than from here at some point. But you'll still have the song titles that I pulled out. We'll just like add more data into this file. I think that's the best strategy. So yeah. So
Did you talk about new features last?
yeah, so actually the tasks for today was to make sure to have the database backend running properly, having like migration features, and being able to see the database. And then another task was to try to look into authentication with Amazon S3. And actually, I haven't posted you a bucket that you can upload to. I do have the bucket. I've created the bucket. I set it up. I just got a little bit stuck when I had to set up a user for you to use because I don't want you to be using like the admin user. So I just have to look into that. And then what more was there? And then you're supposed to create a details page. So yeah. And should we do like the round table and hear what you've been doing? If you've been able to do these things, or if you haven't been able to, what kept you back? First, maybe how many have something to show on the monitor today? Okay.
I am on the SQL database, but I need to change how the records the one is showing now. So I have one table except while I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I used the last week the one you posted.
Uh-huh.
So I used that.
Okay. Yeah, but maybe you start out telling. So you can start out telling what you've been doing.
I was in the vacation. I didn't do that much on my partner until now. We didn't talk like almost 3 weeks. We didn't really answer.
Mm-hmm.
So we was using Elasticsearch and contact from Germany to Melbourne. And we was talking the same things also. We said, yeah, a little bit tricky as what you said now this one, but keep that one and work in SQL side.
Mm-hmm.
And then we try to fix that one and then we come and we figure out how to use the SQL. So Elastic right now is a good it's a little bit I escape that part and I start working in SQL on it.
Okay.
So difficult to download and later on 2 days ago I was able to download and I'm working on it.
Okay. So how far are you with the SQL? Did you look into using Connects?
Yes, I see the Linux, but you send me that file and then okay, I don't know actually I'll install the MySQL directly from the React and use that one, or when you say migration,
Oh,
use the Linux now.
Yeah, you're not supposed. You have to build a real API with a real database. So you have to take all the data that I give you in the JSON file and put it in the database. So that's the migration, or maybe even the seed part. That's actually the seed I'm talking about in terms of Connects. So you would take and seed that data. You put some starter data into the database, and all that starter data is actually our entire database. So that means you have to do some work where you figure out like writing this JSON file and putting it into the right SQL table, right?
Yeah, I have this interpreted for me this JSON, but still, as you said, there's some
And look at speaking.
difficult to use. So I didn't use the migration and see part.
Yeah, it's just a JSON file that got that same. Actually, no, this one is. Can I have a look?
This is
I think it's the big JSON file, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's your data, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you can't really use that one.
No. Ahmad told me from I'm not using now.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have the Elasticsearch running from last time? I'm just doing a status on how much do you have running.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. But you don't have like a details page where you can go and press on the song and then you can see all the details about the song.
We didn't need one. On this part, he said, Rashid, he said he will make that part and filtering part.
Yeah.
Since he said that already.
Okay,
So-
and he's been sick in a way and all that. Yeah, all right, cool. Just going to expose all of my secrets nodes on the wrong display. And the code that you currently have, is that available on GitHub, the latest code you have?
No.
No.
We didn't-
It has to be
Yeah.
always in GitHub. Okay?
Because you changing a lot. I don't know which one actually is to GitHub now. So for Elasticsearch, that one we have like our own branch with Rashid.
Yeah.
But lately now when you code like Node Express, the one inside this one, it's just that happen.
Okay. Yeah. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at that after. I'm just doing like a checklist of things that I hope you have running now, and then we'll go through that with each of you. So it has to be in GitHub. You have to have the database set up and running with like and also migrations. Let's just see next. Then there's the S3, and then there's the details page. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. And Diane, can you tell us how far you are at the moment?
Well, I tried at first I tried this node, and I thought I messaged you, and I forgot about this Next.js. And then I tried this Next, and my Docker stopped working, like connecting to MySQL to start and stop the database operator. And then we called Nike, and we solved it together, and then after some time it got broke again.
Okay. Yeah.
And then after when we solved it again, and then I couldn't create a new database with Docker.
Okay. I mean, if you already have a database running in Docker, I think it's a better idea to try to fix that so you can run it right.
Well, I have it now because I talked with one other mentor.
Yeah.
Like when I came 1 hour earlier. Then I took them and.
Yeah, but I mean, the database that I was helping you set up was a local database. That was not a Docker database, right?
Yeah, yeah, and then we restart that, and then we create a new password. So now I know the password, and it's working fine.
Yeah.
I.
But I think it's still a better idea to try to run it on Docker, and I think maybe ask Maggie for some help with that.
Yeah, I'm doing it on Docker. I don't like do it on Workbench, but I just work on for watching the database tables.
Yeah. Okay. But I was showing you how to run Knex with the Class03 projects.
Yeah.
But you still need to figure out to migrate that to Class04.
But I have this problem authorization, so.
Okay. Yeah. But that's also why I'm talking about doing it on Docker. I think that's better. You didn't do any work on the Amazon, did you? S3?
No.
It wasn't like I provided too much details about that either. All the stuff that you have right now, is that on GitHub?
Yeah.
And your latest work as well?
What?
And your latest work?
Yeah, I was pushing on the way.
Awesome. Fantastic. Great. Yeah. Cool. So, Ishmael?
I tried to increment the details page.
Cool. And do you have something you want to show them? Or?
Just
Cool. So I think the plan today is, because we don't have a Chromecast. Yeah, so the thing is, what I'm going to try now, it sounds strange. Turn off the sound on your laptop. Okay. So I'm going to make a conference call on the Slack channel, and then you join the conference call.
You should go on Slack. Because it's sending something, so you can also
I have no idea if this is going to work properly on video and all that because we didn't have the time to test it. But we'll find out.
Listen. You can listen.
Cool. And then you can share your, oh yeah, turn off the sound. And then you can share your screen.
I'm sorry for that.
It looks pretty shitty, but I think it gets better in a minute.
So I tried to implement the details based on idea from cleaner and schedule.
Mhm.
And good.
That looks great.
Good like this. So the button,
But Yinan already had like quite a bit of this last time, right?
yeah.
So it's building on top of that, right?
Yeah.
What were, because I don't remember exactly how it was last time. So what's the new stuff except for the scrolling to the top?
Only the connects, I tried to work on the connects part.
Yeah. Yeah, because right now maybe just explain how do you get the data right now for the details page? Is that just from the JSON file?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
from the
Yeah.
But I wanted to have an idea maybe from Ahmed if I can fetch data from the reality base where you put your data, because this one is fetched from GitHub.
Yeah. That's another thing you could do. You could just put all your data in Elasticsearch and then just use Elasticsearch as your database. But it's not really what we want to do for this project. We want to have it in the database and query it from the database. So let's focus on getting that to work.
About Phoenix, I tried to work like the way you showed us with Class04. I got the data. But when I put in the whole file, I was getting an error, so I tried to extract like one object and try to see how it works out.
Yeah. Can you make the window larger so we can see what you're actually doing?
So this one is the migration. Yeah, this part is the migration part.
Yeah.
This part is the seed. So I had the problem that when I put like an array of object of an array,
Yeah.
say like that, then the program crashes. So it only works when I have like one object.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah, because I mean, it's not. Yeah, you need. Well, MySQL doesn't have like a JavaScript object data type or something like that. So that means that if you're going to put, each one of these over here is a field in your database, right?
Yeah.
And a field could be like a varchar, or it could be like a number or something like that. But if you need to actually put a JavaScript object into that, you probably need to do something like JSON stringify and make it like a JSON string and put the JSON string into that field. Or maybe it means that you need to break out the data in some way, so it's not like you're putting an entire object in there. Maybe you need some more fields on your database to put the data in there. That's another thing that might be, but I mean, it should.
if I
Yeah.
try to run like this one,
So how you have overrun that migration? Oh yeah, the C. So that's your API endpoint.
So, you want to do
Okay.
Then it is able to display it, but this one is a mistake. Yeah. It's good for you, but,
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know how to-
But maybe do you remember the MySQL diagram that I gave you? Because what you need there is see. So you had like a lot of data for the record, and then when you had to put a song in there, you had a problem because you were trying to put entire objects in there. But what you need to do is you need another migration that creates a song table, and then you need to put all the data in the song table, and then you need to link those two together. So you need to make sure that they get the right IDs to link them together. Because you know it's MySQL, so you put things in different tables, right? Whereas the other, what we did before was just like JSON files where you can put objects inside objects inside objects inside objects. That's not really how it works in MySQL. But it's really nice to see that you're doing this work, because that actually that's the kind of work that I was expecting to see during this week, and it is kind of challenging to write a script that takes JSON and just turns it into a database in a magic way. So that's basically the work that we're trying to do right now. Yeah. Why can't I just go back? Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Cool. So good work on that. You just need to figure out setting up migrations for the other database tables as well. And then I noticed that the endpoint is still called categories. That doesn't really make sense. But you know, I tried going back to the code. So just try going back to your code, and then finding the route categories. That's there, I guess. Just so all of you notice what's going on here. Actually, where does categories come into place here? Is there
Like it.
Yeah, but that's just selecting categories in the database. Because if you have a look at the route, it's just called slash. Oh, so I think try the index route here. No. Okay, that's a little bit confusing because this one has just the slash route, and if you go to categories, it's the same. I was expecting the categories one to have slash categories.
That you have in Brahms here.
So I just put somewhere else. Yeah, but the problem here is that because this is you just copied this from the starter project in class 3, and that was also what I asked you to do. But there were some small things like this that was a little bit weird in the class 3 thing that we have to solve, and I don't remember exactly how it was. But my point here was just that for all of you to realize this line right here is just like regular Express server syntax, so you should have seen that before. And then inside that one, we use connects to select. So this line here will create an SQL statement that says something like select star from category, and then afterwards it will send it back as JSON. And then when you go to the page in your browser, you just get JSON out. So that's the cool thing about Knex is you can write an API endpoint in 3-4 lines with the database backend running. But as we just see here, creating that seed file is actually going to be kind of challenging because you need to set up the different tables and you need to make sure that the different tables get data out of the JSON file in the right way. Cool.
That's it.
All right, thanks. And how about you? The latest code, is that on GitHub at the moment?
Yeah.
Good. So you managed to set up the database and you managed to set up Knex. You're not entirely finished with seeding, but you're on the right track, sure. And you have a details page and it's running just from the JSON data. And that's kind of what I would be expecting at this point because I know that we're still figuring out the data model. So for the rest of you, if you don't have the details page yet, just get something to work with the JSON file rather than waiting for the data. Did you look into Amazon S3? No. But I'll provide you with some more details about how to do that later. So good work. Cool. So what's the status with you?
Yeah, we were able to resolve the email we encountered on Thursday. Not get response on time. We were able to resolve it now. I have to install the Docker again this morning now. I have to wipe out everything on MySQL again. So I will update it. And essentially, it was able to resolve it also because we have done it now. And then here we got it on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I showed it last week.
I've been able to update it now that I lost everything. I have to install MySQL.
Yeah.
We follow up with Diane.
Yeah, but maybe Magdi, will you help the two of them getting Docker to run properly?
He sent the latest version yesterday and it's running on my system. But one I've done before, I have to uninstall my SQL. I have to install it again this morning and I lost what I did. I have to use a different password again. That was the problem.
Yeah.
So I will see him later and sort it out.
Okay. But that's like one of the reasons to be running it in Docker is that you don't have to worry if you lose your admin password. And if it's set up correctly with a volume, it means that the data will be loaded into the Docker container
I don't know what
automatically. But that needs setup, of course.
I don't know what happened that Thursday. I don't really know that. He sent the latest version yesterday. It's running out in the system.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. All right. And I guess the rest of us are mentors then. So, any of you want to do an update on what's been going on during the week, aside from the stuff that I told you about? I think you kind of did with the meeting with the.
Yeah. I would just like to give us if you can
It's not. It's running up. It's
one
running
of
up.
the first
I mean, it's running now.
Yeah.
No, after we set up a new MySQL again,
So first we
just test it. Yeah, try that one.
And that's the one we've been seeing in Google Sheets.
One or two.
So that's a Google Sheet that we've been seeing. And then you try to clean it up. And that's the word that I really do. So I'm using that stuff there. That's the stuff that I try to do. Yeah. All right then. So I think we should just try to get working then, and then we'll try to spread out and help you with those problems you have and try to figure out what needs to happen. And I think I should turn off the video recording now, but please remind me if you do like more on classwork to start it again.